day. As you can see there, Chonsu is our champion, and Surrender is going to be going down to face either Staz or Kin after we decide who, after we play that next match and see who is kicked out and who goes on to the decider.
That's right, and so that means we will most likely be seeing another Shaman game for Staz. It did not quite pan out on stream, but he did say that in the initial rounds of Swiss, it did perform very well for him, so he's got enough up against Kin's lineup, which does include a Priest, which I think Staz kind of wanted to run into with his lineup. So it remains to be seen whether Kin's Priest can perform better. It's like we've got two decks that, you know, we thought would do very well and really underperformed in the Priest and Shaman, and now they're going up against each other.
Yeah, but having said that, I'm surprised that Staz kind of wants to face into the Priest, because I would say that the Totem Shaman, sorry, at first glance feels like it would kind of struggle against the Resurrect Priest. There's a lot of AoE, there's a lot of big taunt minions that it struggles to get through. But maybe there's, again, a trick up Staz's sleeve. This Totem Shaman could do some pretty funky stuff.
Definitely. Just going off of stats on HS Replay and such, it seems like the Totem Shaman have a decent but not heavily favored matchup against the Priest. It's more there to deal with Druid, which is not actually in Kin's lineup, I believe. Let me check again. Yeah, and definitely I do remember Staz saying he wants to face Warlock and Mage with it, which Kin definitely does have.
There we go.
And Kin, without the Druid in the lineup, I'm actually quite shocked to not see a Druid. It's second most shocking to not seeing a Demon Hunter, but that is present in Kin's lineup.
That's right, and as you can see there, it's another double Demon Hunter ban from both of these players. I suppose that makes sense. For Kin, he does have the Warlock, which maybe would incentivize him to not ban the Demon Hunter, because you have a pretty decent matchup there, at least against the aggressive version. But I guess there's just nothing he wants to ban more in Staz's lineup, to be honest. The Druid, I guess he feels like he can take down fairly easily. That's the only other deck that I would consider him wanting to ban.
Definitely. So getting into, I guess, other potential matchups we could see, Highlander Mage and Galakron Warlock are decks that have existed in the meta for quite some time now. Of course, they've taken some changes with the rotation. How do you feel about the matchup?
Well, before rotation came around, it felt to me like I was in a pretty good spot as the Mage. I was playing a lot more Highlander Mage than I was Galakron Warlock. And you had the Pocket Galaxy. Eventually, you'd throw that down, and you'd be throwing down threat after threat after threat. They only have 2 Plague of Flames, which is obviously the premier removal tool in the deck. And once you got over a certain threshold, it felt like the Mage just dominated it. Now it might be a little bit different, though, because there's not that ultimate late-game win condition with the Pocket Galaxy. And so maybe the sort of stronger mid-game, the fact that Warlock can get going a little bit sooner, they can couple that with the strong face damage in the form of Nether Breath and the Crazed Netherwing to an extent, and use that to just close the game out before the Mage can even get into its super late game.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. And in terms of the threats from the Warlock, it does seem like the Mage has enough stuff to deal with the White Demon boards, just because of, you know, Reno itself. And you always have to consider plus, but just bare bones, looking at the decks, it seems like the Warlock has more of an advantage. I will say, though, that I've seen some versions of Warlock running around with Malygos as a combo, and that kind of runs the quest and plot twist as well. So you're trying to discard Alexstrasza and Malygos and have a semi-OTK combo with Nether Breath and things like that. Soulfire as well. I wonder if we're going to be seeing more of that version in the future, as maybe more of these slower matchups come into play and Burst becomes more and more of a precious resource in Hearthstone.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to make fun of you because that does sound a bit silly, but you know what? We're seeing that, you know, maybe with the shake-up, the nerfs that have been rumored by Ixar on Twitter, maybe that will shake things enough, because the main reason that Warlock is kind of doing so well at the moment, I think, is the fact that it's preying on Demon Hunter in a pretty nice way on ladder, as well as just having general favorable matchups or decent matchups, I think, across the board. But like you said, if the Demon Hunter doesn't find a spot in the meta, then maybe the burst will be the way to go. We'll have to see. But for first of all, we're going to have to go into this game with the Mage, the Highlander Mage, up against the Galakron Warlock. What do you think both these players are looking for in their starting hands?
Well, for Staz, I would just say the usual, keeping Reno. When do you ever throw it aside from the Bomb Warrior matchup?
Sure.
But you're right. I mean, at some point, the Mage doesn't just remove things; they have to develop their own things. So just things like Escape as well. Of course, Zephyrus helps you ramp into the important things, and I really think that it comes down a lot to sometimes Alex Raza and discovering Burst for the Mage's side. Because the Warlock has a fair amount of healing and removal themselves, so maybe the Mage can't confidently stick something onto the board.
It's tough though now because Warlock has gone from having a good amount of healing to an insane amount of healing with a double Moarg Artificer thrown into the list. If you go double Moarg plus Nether Breath, that's 16 health that you are going to be gaining given that you have a dragon in hand. Which can just absolutely pull you back from the brink. It's basically a mini old school Reno, in a way.
There's too many Renos! And here again we see Staz with an early Doomsayer. Not as important of a card as it was in other matchups. I will say that I like the timing in that other game. But here it's now just trying to guarantee that the Escape Mana Saber can get onto the board unchallenged.
Yeah, it does make Kin's life a little bit difficult because he can't just go tap pass without overdrawing. I think from Kin, I was about to say I'd like to see an invoke minion come down, probably the Dragonblight Cultist, because then you can save the coin. Because in his hand, he's just got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you play an invoke card every turn, that's a fully invoked Galakron on curve. You
are absolutely right, and that is disgusting. Probably not as disgusting as it would be in Rogue. Because I've seen way too many screenshots lately of Warlock Galakron summoning a bunch of Dormants.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a lot of Dormant Demons in the pool now. You're very likely to get one. I think on the stats that Lorinda gave us, you were either just over or just under 50%. I don't have them actually up right now. But with a full suite of 4 minions, you are basically as likely as not to get yourself a Dormant minion.
Generally, summoning a whole bunch of Dormants is a death sentence in the mirror, because if your opponent's Galakron then summons a bunch of things and you can't even use those of flames, then you just get run over. But maybe against Mage, a bunch of Dormant might not be so bad if they themselves are not summoning too many minions.
Yeah, there's some pretty good ones. You can get 10 damage dealt to your random enemies with a Demon Hunter Dormant. That's pretty powerful.
What to do?
So from Staz this turn, do you like just dropping the Mana Saber? This is one of the few matchups where Mana Saber can be dealt with through Plague of Flames, etc. So Staz is gonna hold back and try to get more value out of his pings. So I'm seeing a Shield of Galakron on curve here.
Instead, I guess, wants to clear this off. It allows the Mortal Coil as well. And obviously means that there's nothing left on board, so it obviously weakens
Reno.
The Reno, and also weakens a potential Conjurer's Calling on the opponent's side.
True. So Staz now playing the Mana Saber to roll into a possible early power creation. And this is just one of the earliest fully invoked Galakrons ever. So if you're Staz now and you see how quickly Kin is playing, are you expecting the full Galakron next turn already?
Nobody expects the full Galakron on curve. I guess the question now is whether or not you attack. Obviously, it's 5 health, so obviously, I was joking to an extent. You do have to expect the Galakron coming down here. So that was a big reason to potentially not attack, so that you could try and get up to one of your 10 mana spells a little bit sooner, because now it's a very nice, easy way to just clear off the 3/5.
Yeah, that is. I mean, you can't fault Staz for saying that or thinking that it's not there, because more often than not, your opponent will not have
Yeah.
4 invokes into exactly Galakron on curve, but this is just looking awful. And Kin's even got the new card which is more often seen in Zoom, Nightshade Matron, 5/5 with Rush. Given the one attack by this card I've only seen in Battlegrounds, Huge Breaker, for the perfect clear on Reno.
Yeah, that's pretty absurdly powerful there. No ability to clear this off for the moment for Staz. Even if he goes for the Tortolan, then
What to do?
Flame Strike is like the best he can get, given that Puzzle Box is already in hand. So maybe it's just going to have to be Cartut Ping is the best he can do. You don't even get the heal, though.
Yeah, it's
awkward.
very awkward. I'm thinking maybe go for a Tortolan Blizzard instead.
What to do? What to do?
Just try to prevent the 5/8 from attacking. But at this point,
it's so awkward.
Yeah.
All the best spells are in hand. Apart from, I guess, Flame Strike or Blizzard, yeah.
Just from the way it's looking for Staz, and given that Kin has no shortage of value and refill in hand, it's both Alex Drazas, the Veiled Worshipper for 3 draws if he needs it, and Zephyrus for a lethal basically almost anytime he sticks a big board. So Staz instead gonna go for the Deep Freeze here, and his whole game plan is centered around a good box, as it so often pans out for Mage.
But now Coin Alex looks absolutely perfect for Kin. It's not lethal due to the armor, obviously, but I think he'll still be very, very happy with this board coming down a turn before Box or Reno can even come down to save the day.
Absolutely nuts. Oh, I'm actually a bit surprised that Kin did not expend the weapon charge now, given that there's 2 potential freezers on Staz's side. To be fair, though, the taunt is presenting a huge problem for Staz.
So what's the best thing that Staz can do? If he gets Flame Strike off of Tortolan, then he can freeze the 5/8, but he's still dead.
I'm thinking Blizzard.
Yep. Blizzard or Frost Nova into Box.
Yes, and the box has to deliver.
Or Reno off the top.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a true god.
And I expect that Kin will not be over into either of those options, so he'll probably just play 1 or 2 minions.
Yes.
Definitely not the Dragon Queen, and it's not active yet anyway, so after one of those AoEs from Staz comes, he'll immediately refills one way or another. So it's looking really bad for Staz here. There's the Blizzard, though.
That's the freeze. That's what he needed to stand a chance. The problem, of course, is the what's that card even called? Imprisoned Observer? I think it's that one. The Dormant minion, anyway, that's going to wake up and deal a little bit of AoE damage, killing off both the water elementals is really annoying.
I am surprised to see Staz take the double trade there for exactly that reason. I mean, this might not be the correct way to play Mage, but when I'm in this position and I just think that box is the only way I win, I just pray for the best case scenario box. Don't bother trading.
It doesn't matter. We're not going to see the box anyway because that is just lethal draw off the top.
Oh,
very nice quick game there for Kin. Big difference from his first series that we saw of the day where he just got swept on his Priest nice and easy 3 times. Now he's turning things around, and it does feel like these kind of, I don't know, slower decks. I'm kind of lumping the Mage and the Priest in together as the sort of 4th deck that the players are bringing. But they're both feeling a little bit underwhelming, I have to say, so far.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Even Staz himself said that the Mage underperformed on his first day of Swiss. In the first few rounds, he did do well, but then lost 4 in a row, mainly due to the Mage. Not quite sure if it's because of its just general place in the meta or the way it's built, but I do hope that we get to at least see a shaman game from Staz.
That would be fun. I would definitely like to see that. It obviously has not been banned, as I feel like most people, aside from Staz, as they've clearly demonstrated in not bringing it, don't think that it's that strong of a deck. But, I mean, we've yet to see it win a game. I think it's gone 0-2 in games on stream so far.
You could be in the 3rd category of people who didn't even know it existed, like myself. So
Sure. I mean, yes, I think Wyra beat me with it on ladder earlier this month, but I mean, Wyra and weird shaman decks is like you've come to expect it.
yes. So on Kin's side, he will have to be playing that priest again at some point, which he really struggled with, and his own mage. So we have a potential for a mage mirror as well, and that one can also get a bit wonky.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I haven't played a Reno Mage Mirror without Pocket Galaxy, and that was kind of just an easy cop-out answer that you could give in the old Mage Mirrors. I remember back to you and I casting Masters Tour Soul, where it got a little bit clowny, I think it's fair to say, towards the finals with the amount of the amount of mages going for Pocket Galaxies, especially when it was back at 5 mana. But now I think the matchup is... Yeah, I know. Glad we moved on, got to be honest. But it's a different matchup now. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to play out. Is it aggressive? Is it fatigue? Is it... how are you playing this matchup, do you think?
There are some panouts where it goes to fatigue, for sure. And less often, I would say, are the panouts where one person gets to stick a good-sized or a good cost minion and then overrun with Conjurer's Calling. But a lot of it eventually depends, I would say, on Alexstrasza timing, because there's much less heal for the mage. Steax is not a card anymore. And then Malygos, Aspect of Magic, can discover you fireballs and the like to just kind of burn someone out of range. Of course, Zephrys can help with that too. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Well, we'll have to see when we come back for the second match of this series who is going to be staying in and playing on this weekend in our next game here at Hearthstone Grandmasters. Welcome back once again to Asia Pacific Hearthstone Grandmasters. It's our first day of the 2020 season here, so if you've just joined us, it is the perfect time to jump into some competitive Hearthstone. We are halfway through our first day, the first Swiss portion, the first Swiss tournament in week 1. Basically, the first 3 weeks function as kind of 3 individual tournaments, and we're down to the top 8 now, with the Swiss having been played off-stream in the last couple of days. We already have Chonsu, who has advanced through to the top 4 on Sunday. And now we are finding out who will have a chance of joining him and who will be eliminated as the loser of this match between Kin and Staz. And I believe, as we were just talking about, Gia, before the break, we have a Mage Mirror coming up as our next match.
We definitely do. And as you mentioned, it is a lot different from how it was back before this expansion when Luna's Galaxy was kind of the deciding factor in a lot of games. Now there's perhaps less threats available, but speaking of threats, Staz has 3 of the most powerful cards in the matchup already in hand. Zephrys is definitely being kept. I wonder if he feels comfortable enough with the curve that he actually keeps one of the 9-cost minions as well.
I think so.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I think the one I would question is Arcane Intellect. It's actually usually lower down on the win rates in terms of Mulligan than you would suspect. It's generally an overkept card, I think. But I guess in a slow matchup like this, you could consider holding on to it. But I think personally, I would have preferred getting rid of the Arcane Intellect, given that you are almost definitely going Zephrys on 2, Wild Growth on 3. So you should instead be looking for cards like maybe the Mana Saver to ramp you up even further.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like Mage is closer to old Druid than Druid is.
True. Big minions, ramp.
Overconfident Orc right on curve here. One of the premier neutral cards to help with these anti-aggro decks alongside Rusty Raider. Unfortunately for Staz, he has to take the turn to use Wild Growth, so he can't quite just ping the Orc to lower its attack. And we see the new Prime for Malarian, which is similar to Cult Sorcerer from Cthulhu in terms of the first body, and the Primate Shuffle is a 7 that does a mini Yogg box upon its battle cry.
Do you like not going for the Contra's Calling there? I was kind of tempted by that, I think, just to put a bit of a early pressure on, you know?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I confess I don't have the numbers on what the average stats for a 3-drop
sure.
are, but it seems to me that with a hand like this, with some higher cost minions and also the Dragon Caster, maybe Kin thought he could get some better targets.
That's very fair, yeah.
Decides to go for a ping and pass here, not going to activate the Flame Ward. It doesn't seem like there's any rush for Kin to do so. But what do you think about holding back on the Malygos?
Well, it wasn't active, right? There was
sorry.
no other dragon hand, yeah. So,
right.
I think this turn, yeah, just doing pretty much nothing. Sure, there's not much that you can do. But now that's been activated, I think Dragon Caster, Power of Creation is a great way to start pressuring on the board, because if you're not doing that, Staz has the ability to go attack with a Mana Saver, coin Dragon Queen Alexstrasza on the following turn, which, to be honest, you are just dying to.
Indeed, and this is finally the part of the game where the mages both start to ramp up their threats. And from Staz's perspective, maybe he still wants to do that. I mean, it is very, very punished by any form of freeze, because 16 damage will be coming his way if he does not deal with this board. So, what are the other options?
I mean, the main options, the 2 options I'm looking at really are Coin Alexstrasza or Frostnova Doomsayer, right? As the 2 things I would consider here. And to be honest, there's not really that many ways that a mage can answer Doomsayer. They're not running Polymorph, they're not running Pyro. Single target removal is quite weak, actually, in Mage. I suppose rolling Fireball's the best you've got.
Yeah, that's the one.
But the thing is, if they're doing that, they're not developing any more minions anyway, because they only have 2 mana left over. So I think I actually prefer going for the freeze Doomsayer for a turn, because like you say, if you play the Alexstrasza and they freeze you, you're maybe just dead.
Sure. And he can also just use that extra mana to develop the Ice Barrier, get it out of hand, I suppose.
He's got coin Alexstrasza anyway, so I think this is fine.
Seems good to me. So Kin here, probably hoping to draw some, like, I mean, exactly rolling Fireball, right? Otherwise, the only way he removes this is with the conj of his own, which
Yeah,
feels kind of icky.
He could start with the Blast, potentially.
Yes.
To try and find, you know, Fireball, Polymorph, whatever.
Fair amount of things.
Or he could go Conjurers first and then Arcane Blast, one of the 2-drops that comes out.
Seems like that's what he's going for. And we brought this up a while ago with the best players making things awkward for their opponents. And I think Staz has managed to achieve that, kind of a catch-22. Either Kin has to expend resources and remove the Doomsayer and most likely leave the Mana Saver up, or Kin deals with everything and Staz gets full initiative for the next turn.
Man, Kin goes with the power of creation there instead of the polymorph. I guess maybe I'm letting Cast Division get to me a bit there, in that I can see that Staz has a very threat-dense hand. But I have to be honest, I was kind of thinking that Kin, you know, he's got some threats of his own with the Tortoll and the Deep Freeze and Conjurer's Calling, so maybe he should go for some removal of his own. But instead, he is all out on the aggressive here, even though it will take him quite a few turns to spend all this mana.
Yeah. Well, I can get behind the aggressive game plan because by clearing the Doomsayer, he's saying that he's not willing to give up his board.
Sure.
Despite giving Staz an extra mana by virtue of leaving the Mana Saver up. Now, Staz can coin into Kaligos and Deep Freeze by attacking with the Mana Saver. It looks like he might even potentially take a double trade onto the Dragon Caster. Oh, now mine looks like it's going to be Alexstrasza. And is interesting, but a little bit short. Oh, it's cool because if it kills the 4/1, then you can coin and draw off the Crystal Merchant.
Yeah.
But he's not taking that risk.
Yeah, it's interesting. This did make it a little bit easier to clear for Kin, whereas, like you said, if Staz had gone for the Kaligos into Deep Freeze, he may have been in just actually an even better situation here with still a very, very big board.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about it. So for Kin to clear the 5/6, it's just a trade but have a death rattle. Someone said 3/4, correct?
Yes, correct.
He could use a Deep Freeze of his own to put off dealing with the Alexstrasza.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find any way I can of him being allowed to use the Conjurer's Calling, because that sounds pretty good on a 6/2 as a 6-drop. But I just think the other 4 mana is pretty much wasted. So yeah, when it comes down to it, I agree with this.
I guess that was the upside of using the Twin Tyrant. It prevents a VT into Conjurer's Calling.
Very true. Ooh, wow, that is a nice pickup.
My goodness. And this is going into the turn before Reno, the amazing Reno, is also.
Sorry, Gia, we're being dumb. We just suggested coin Kaligos on the previous turn.
Ah! You're right.
Right, okay. That aside, yeah, it would have had to have been Deep Freeze on its own or coin Puzzle Box. Yeah, sorry. Excuse us.
So what can be done this turn is Dragon Caster and Power of Creation, but he's going to hold on to it. The new Illidan.
Xavius. Yeah, exactly. The replacement for Illidan.
The only thing that can get a bit tricky with this is that if he fills his board entirely, suddenly the freezes become way more punishing. He can't have the board space to play Kaligos, for example. In terms of stats on board, though, I think Xavius is the obvious answer.
I agree.
And he will actually still have 1 board space after using the coin turn, so there we have it. So Kin needs Blizzard or Frost Nova. That's for next turn.
Okay. He's just got to survive the turn, which shouldn't be too hard.
Yeah. Couldn't tell you how many spells are left, but it seems reasonably. Oh no! Is it gonna have to be the puzzle box?
It's got to be time, right? You have to.
Yeah,
it's far and away the best.
Without Blizzard or Nova as the other options.
Come
I realized I said oh no, but other people out there are cheering oh yes.
Oh yes.
That's nothing. That could be something.
It's not bad. That's very bad.
Oh my gosh!
That's very, very bad.
He loses the Reno.
He
Among
drew box
other
though. He just drew
things.
box. He's milling a lot of cards as well.
Oh my gosh!
Just get his opponent Alex Straza or Ysera even. Oh my god.
And he's got to make these trades faster.
He's got to do something. Yep.
He was shaking his head a lot, but I'm seeing some actually pretty decent demons here. Priestess of Fury. I'm never sad to see that.
True. Yeah. Skulking thing. Which can attack
that summons
again.
a 9/1.
Yeah.
Hulking Overfiend.
Hulking Overfiend. Yeah, there we go. Not skulking. Or sulking. It's not the worst situation ever for Kin, because he lost his big board clear, but he, I guess, does now just have a lot of big threats, which is kind of what he wanted anyway.
So from Staz's perspective, he doesn't know that the Reno has been transformed. For all you know, it could have been in the cards that were sprinted in. Was it sprint or something drawn into? Yeah. So now the Kalagos Deep Freeze really is available, but it's risky going into a Reno because Kin has a bunch of minions. Staz does not know whether or not they're high value, but he's got way less value in his own hand.
What to do? What to do?
The fate of the world hangs in the balance.
Evocation?
Yeah, probably. I've got to be honest though, I was kind of surprised to not see Dragon Caster, because now he doesn't have a dragon in hand. And it could have been something like Dragon Caster Box into Bone Wraith, or even Dragon Caster Deep Freeze. Although I guess getting Kalagos down is pretty powerful.
It is. Especially since if he Deep Freezes the 5/5, there's not a convenient way for the Mage to deal with Kalagos. Sure. And he's probably waiting for a worse situation before he rips the box. To have a bigger potential swing, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't see this going anywhere but face. It just doesn't seem worth it to take the trades on anything, especially since the only minions worth trading into will freeze his minions.
Yeah, exactly. Just won't be able to attack for a whole another turn after this.
Alright. Kin under a fair amount of pressure, but he can freeze 8 damage off of the board, at least.
Yep. The Hulking Overfiend can be used.
What to do?
Right, so 3/6 into 4/10, Overfiend into that, and then go from there.
That's something that's basically his entire turn used up, so he's got to think if that's worth it.
He can kill a 4/10 and his choice of 4/12 with everything on board.
Man, these demons, it seems crazy that they're in any way usable, but somehow we're here.
Yeah. Ashes of Outland has probably raised the average strength power level of demons much higher.
Yeah, drastically.
So maybe that Shadow Council was not as bad for Kin as he would have thought.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I was expecting a bunch of Flame Imps and Void Walkers and rubbish like that. Ooh, alright, amazing Reno.
Ysera generated another dragon in hand, so now the Dragon Caster is active again.
Oh yeah, of course, sorry. Staz definitely knew that last turn as well. 100% knew that was going to happen.
Okay, Richard Blizzard rolling pretty good here too. Well, it's got 50% of going.
Though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not guaranteed to go on enemy minions. Neither of these are guaranteed to go anywhere. So none of these.
Yeah, this was pretty bad actually.
And you definitely do not want to conjure any of Kin's minions, so he's just with a rolling fireball and 8 mana, kill yourself, and deal 3 damage to the next one. That's awful. My
yeah, that was a disaster. That was a complete disaster there. But to be
Very
fair, we said that
unlucky.
for Kin on the previous turn, and he's managed to put himself in an okay position now.
I think we overreacted though, and so did Kin. Like he
Yeah,
looked
sure.
very upset, and in the end, he ended up getting a fair amount of value from the demons. Yes, he lost the, but he's got refill past his opponent's Reno. In theory.
Yeah. So what are we looking at? Priestess of Fury looks like a pretty tempting option on this turn. It obviously doesn't guarantee you a clear at all. But
I'm
it would be a
looking
nice
at this
big play
Alex
onto the
Straza.
board. Sure, just the biggest thing you can.
Kin now has 1.5 boxes in hand if you include so that. What are these
Oh
dragons?
my
They're so
God.
good! What? Wow. Punch 3 out of 4 are targets, friendly targets.
It's probably Flame Strike, right? Just because you have so much stuff, all you need is reactive
Fair.
cards.
Up or not.
Oh, sure, he just wants to go even more onto the board. I mean, I guess you could argue this is an overextension into Reno, but I mean, he's got so much stuff, you don't really need to worry about that.
He really does. And I'm not sure if there's anything in his deck that he doesn't want to overdraw enough to the point that he would dump NXT, but he is still going to dump it here.
Okay.
So
Sure.
this is quite an obvious Reno for Staz,
Yep.
unless you box.
Yeah, your Sarah Awakens doesn't do anything. Reno, get rid of all this nonsense. Apart from, of course, the pesky dormant minion.
Which happens to be buffed. Wow, Alex off the top. Empty board.
Yeah, he was just about to slam that face and deal 5 to face before he realized, oh wait, this has to rest for a turn. It only has rush, not charge.
Priestess of Fury can shave off the armor on its own.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. It's a nice big body as well.
You can. Is that a Moarg alongside it?
Yeah, I think you probably don't want to drop the Moarg. I don't know, doubling
Is it
Flame
with
Strike is a bit
Double
scary.
strike?
Yeah.
It's for all minions and all spells, not just your own.
Yeah, or even just if they drop Puzzle Box, like, I guess it's pretty likely to clear anyway, but it just really guarantees that it's going to clear the board almost.
So by process of elimination, we're probably just playing 2 4-drops here.
Sure, yep.
As for Staz, this is a decent Awakens. And he could just play 2 4-drops alongside it.
Okay, that did nothing.
Oh, but playing the dragon deactivates the Malagos. So.
Right. So it
Awakens Reno.
awakens Reno. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It's like it's a bit of an overextend. Reno isn't really called for in that situation necessarily because it's only a 5/2 left on board.
What I'm looking at now is kind of dumping the hand to make space for evocation, though. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
sure.
the right way to go about it because with mana, you're probably not going to be able to play more than 3 or 4 spells at most.
Yeah,
even
and
taking
even
the whole turn.
yeah, even then, if you get something like a Power of Creation, you're probably just going to slam that down because it's the best spell you can get, or Deep Freeze.
So if Staz is being conservative, it would look something like Awakens and just the Bone Wraith, perhaps.
Yeah, or maybe the
Unless he wants
Malagos.
to go for a proactive box.
Like you kind of want to use the Malagos while you have a spell in dragon in hand.
True. Oh! Okay, so
Okay,
Malagos is turned off again.
Tough turns for these players.
Reno turned off.
Oh yeah, true, of course.
I wonder.
At first glance, I wouldn't mind just playing Alex Straza here, but I didn't realize Kin had gotten so low, down to 15 health, and Alex would not deal with the 7/6, so he's actually ripping the mini box here.
Solarian Prime. 5 spells. They will target enemies if they can, though. So Polymorph is a
best
fantastic
target.
outcome. That is amazing. And he gets a box into his hand. Okay.
Way more
so he's got...
boxes delivered than I got.
Okay,
Alright.
we got a game on our hands. I could see this going either way, potentially. With cards like that coming down for Staz, he's in with a shot here.
I did not get a chance to take note of the secrets. One of them is Flame Ward, the others, couldn't tell you. So starting with the Arcane Breath, testing for counter spell. Pyroblast is looking pretty sick here. Kin's
Yep.
at 14.
Dragon Caster in hand, sign me up. Unless, of course, the Conjurer's Calling is looking too juicy because you don't think that the 10 damage is ever going to get there.
Oh, but
Oof.
man, Evocation has the chance to get you Fireball as well. Maybe I'm tunnel visioning. Or caster visioning.
No. To be fair, I think you might be in with a good point there because there's what now 3 demons left behind. So Staz, maybe thinks that's just a whole bunch of rubbish, but I think he needs to start considering the idea that he isn't gonna win board back this game. Obviously, the Conjurer's Calling bolsters his board plan, so it kind of moves the goalposts as to what the correct pick was, but I think it's definitely worth considering that his best chance is just burning his opponent out. There's no Ziliax anymore.
If I'm not mistaken, both of these boxes in Kin's hand were generated by other effects, though. Or at least one of them was.
One of them was.
Can't be
the other one might have
accounting
been drawn.
for all of that. Oh yeah, sorry, the first box was from Pilgrim. Did we get all the trades in? Yes, okay. So now,
Still waiting for one of the portals before Reno can be played here. Or can be active, obviously it could still be played.
he's just reaching for the box again.
Oh, don't toy with my heart like that.
But it may just be the best play if he is expecting something like Pyroblast to come out. But again, I'm still...
Oh my god, you're going to draw so many cards. You're at 10 cards in hand. How can
Kin
you
is a
play
tease.
box?
He keeps hovering over it. Here we go, guys.
Okay, guys. That's
Wow,
a great
that's
first
pretty
spell.
good. Nothing.
Okay.
Drawing. Okay.
Sure, Reno's active now.
One's out already. My hand is too full.
Overdraw number 1. Overdraw number 2. Oh, and it's Caligos as well.
Oh.
That. Okay, this is not done yet, but this is looking pretty terrible. That's at least decent.
I mean, that is one hell of an imp.
Oh, it didn't even hit his base. Okay, all it did overdraw some prime cards and deal with the Reno. That is not worth 10 mana.
And summon a 1/1 with Death Rattle summon 2 1/1s, okay?
I count that as nothing. Sorry. Dragon Caster gonna be played now. Or the Conj, and probably another Conj.
Yep.
Oh, we could get a bunch of 1/1s for his trouble. He's deciding to prioritize sticking the Death Rattle minion.
Not bad, not bad. So what that is 12 health on board. So attack Reno Ping would clear off these minions, but then obviously there's a 0/5 taunt and 4 1/1s that will be left behind.
It's true. And what do 4 1/1s and Pyroblast do there?
So true, dude.
I mean, it is caster vision, but also concerning was the allocation of dragons because this Malagos is getting a bit stuck in hand. I'm not even sure what dragons are left in the deck.
I think maybe a Twilight Drake. Or something like that.
I like the Doomsayer. Just free up the hand a little bit, and also because he's not too sad about losing any of these cards. Just wants to get the tempo back.
Yeah.
Staz has managed to pressure Kin every single turn since now, but it's either getting to the point where we box or we evocation and get a bunch of boxes anyway, so you regret it and wish you just boxed.
So Flame Strike here goes to 2 and then 3 on the 2 minions, which means it can't be... You can't clear everything. But the thing is, you know, if you're using a Flame Strike just to clear up all that stuff, you don't have really much of a board presence anyway. There's not much point.
Exactly. I believe that Apex's Blast is not active, meaning he still has minions left in the deck. Encounter's Flow.
He could, I mean, he could Encounter's Flow and then draw 2 with the AI, but I mean, it's not that good.
Apex's Blast can go face, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure, okay.
So, I don't know. I've been looking at face this whole time. But the Pyros was not taken, nor is the Malagos active. Just playing the other evocation to see
thought he was going
what's
to
up.
just for fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no 0 mana spells left now, are there, though?
Nope. Not unless you are Illidan or Valera. Or Malfurion.
Or Anduin. Or
It's just way more than it would be. Okay. So finally the Priestess of Fury gets a chance to come down, and Kin finally has wrested the control of the board back, which I believe signals that it is time. Wow! Wait a second!
It signals it's time for Soul Mirror. That's nuts! He ends with a Priestess of Fury on board. Is this...
It's alive! What?
I mean, we're looking at close to, like, lethal here, right? I mean, you can go Conjurer's Calling on the Reno.
Yeah. Yeah! I mean, there's even a world where you rip the Flame Strike to make everything go face, but I've just been suggesting face plays this whole time. It's probably not correct at this point. Another Conj looks fine on the Oblivitron. And he can even dump the Solarian aside it.
I will crush your delusions of grandeur.
Alright, obviously not guaranteed to clear everything off here, but quite likely. There we go, 11 health now for Kin. He's going to have to do something to clear up this board. And is that just another box? Of course it is!
Of course it is. It looks like only Solarian survived based on the order.
That means it must have been stolen, right? Because...
Oh, right. That's my bad. Yeah,
green, yeah.
So it's like Shadow Madness or something?
Yeah. Oh man, this isn't looking good for Kin. This is nothing.
That does put one more thing on his. Oh my god, that face. Well, that's one more minion in deck to prevent fatigue, but nothing to deal with the immediate threat. And Staz, after a grueling mirror with more boxes than I can count, takes it and goes 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, it seems, to be honest, that we've gone from Mage mirrors being one kind of, I don't know what to call it, one kind of interesting spectacle to an entirely different one. First time around it was with the Luna's Pocket Galaxy. This time around, we're throwing around Solarian Prime, Puzzle Box, Reno. There's just stuff flying all over the screen. Who knows what's going on? But at the end of it, Kin does end up taking an unfortunate loss there, and it does equalize our series 1 game apiece. It's a bit of a long one compared to the other ones, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless.
It's just to me that with all the stuff that happened in that game, it seems like it was the Soul Mirror that really decided everything.
True.
If that had not been the one played, because it not only gave Staz board presence, but softened up Kin's board presence and allowed Staz to just not have to play anything additional to deal with Kin's minions. Whereas if it was not Soul Mirror, staring down at 8-9 and a 4-6, I believe, and Kin had finally wrested back control of the board. And we might have seen another box if that were not the case.
Who knows? Who knows? But that does mean that the Mage is out of the way for Staz, which he'll be very happy about. As he professed to you, it has been one of his weaker decks, if not the weakest deck in his lineup so far. So with that ticked off the list, he's now left with his Shaman and his Druid. He is going to be on his... was that Shaman?
Yes, Staz is queuing up the infamous Token Shaman, whereas Kin is... going to be on his Priest. Now, Staz did mention, and HS Replay seems to support the fact that, well, the numbers that Shaman is favored against Priest. I don't know if it's a hard fact just yet, because you and I haven't seen the matchup played all too often, and our first thing is that Priest should technically have enough removal to deal with it, but let's see how it pans out.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I feel like, maybe Mage, their removal is a little bit too late game to be fighting back against the Shaman's early board. But for Priest, you're looking at double Breath of the Infinite, Penance, Holy Nova in the early game as well, now down to 4 mana. There's a lot of very cheap removal that is perfectly situated to be killing off those cheap totems. So we'll have... I'm clearly missing here that Staz is going to be boasting in this game, as it is the Shaman up against the Priest now. This starting hand for Staz, I imagine you're probably just holding on to the evil totem. Yeah, that looks about right.
And you did mention that there is a lot of early removal for the Priest, so I think Staz actually will be very mindful of good timing for cards like Totemic Might. I can't believe that that's being hard run in a deck in Hearthstone in 2020, but here we are. The first evil totem being dropped down and hoping to not run into tenants, but that will be the case. I would be surprised if Kin decides to be a bit more greedy with this.
Yeah, I mean, if he had something in hand like a Holy Nova or Breath of the Infinite, I'd be like, okay, you know what, like, you want to be a bit greedier and take that out in 1 or 2 turns, but with nothing like that, fully agree, get it off the board.
And Marshspawn looks like the play here. It sucks to not get the value, but he's not even got a spell to activate it in the near future. So,
sure.
Alternate
and then,
plays are like, what, a play tongue?
Well, no. I'm thinking like something like a Tempest plus Hero Power, just because it gets a couple things on the board. Flame Tongue curves a little bit better next turn then.
Let me take a glance at Kin's list once more. Some of these priests are cutting some of the removal. Yeah, I don't believe there's a Shadow Word Pain in the list, so the Marshspawn seems like it would be relatively safe once it hits the board this turn. I can also get behind your line though.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that I'm trying to save the Marshspawn. I'm just thinking, what is the play next turn? And nothing looks that great if we just go for 1 big minion this turn.
That's true. You ideally want to get 2 things on board to be blocked by Flame Tongue, and then copy that Flame Tongue if all goes well.
Right, coin Vargoth. Yep, that's definitely what we were expecting to see. Okay, next coin, why not? But just hoping, praying to get the Grave Rune down. And now with the Psychopomp off the top as well, it doesn't even matter necessarily if the Vargoth doesn't survive, because you can just bring it back to life with Reborn as well.
And it's very scary for Staz, because he's got to commit quite a few resources into this, namely Flame Tongue Totem and the Lackey to deal with it. And not to mention the Totem would die off in that case.
There's quite a few things to consider here actually for Staz. Like in terms of the totems he's trying to copy, does he just go for Totemic buff it now so he can copy it next turn with the Totemic Reflection? I guess not, in his opinion. Too important to kill off the Vargoth.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree, given that Grave Rune is a 2-up, but either way you do it, right? You leave it up, you walk into Grave Rune, you kill it, you walk into Cycle.
So he does he does again have the ability to clear it off here in a few different ways, actually.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for the best one. The Splitting Axe stands out because just weapons are great. I mean, because finally he's getting to copy something, which hasn't happened a lot. But ideally, you want to use the Elemental to pin off the Psychopomp and also the Reborn.
Yeah, I'm thinking you go like double Sandstorm Elemental... double trade into the Vargoth Sandstorm Elemental Totemic Reflection. Yeah. And
then
Splitting
hopefully
Axe next
copy
turn.
A bunch of Flame Tongues.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that sounds pretty powerful. Obviously, there's a pretty quick stop button on that with the Master Spell for Kin, which is pretty perfectly placed. But Staz has just got to hope that's not there.
if I recall, this is the same card that Surrender got off of Zephyrus to deal with a similar board from Staz. And Surrender was upset about it, but he did end up winning that series. So the Infiltrator here is basically saying you have no respect for Splitting Axe.
Yeah. I do like that coming down there. It was getting a little bit scary there. And even though Splitting Axe can come down, it needs to be... Okay, I was going to say it needs to be pretty much exactly Totemic Surge for you to be really afraid of this board that's coming down.
That's a good one. He can
That
play
is a good one.
3 cards next turn, get the Marsh Spawn activation.
Or should he greed it? How greedy should he be?
What to do?
What, you mean Hero Power for now?
Yeah, I guess maybe save the Splitting Axe, go Hero Power, Totemic Surge, Marsh Spawn, and then try and get Splitting Axe the turn after.
I like getting in the damage now. I couldn't tell you a reason off the top of my head immediately. Maybe just because it's looking like Kin's health total is quite higher and Staz needs to get things done now.
I mean, to be fair, Gia, you haven't really given me a reason all day. All you've said is go face. And to be honest, I can't argue.
Perfect. We're on the same page. Okay.
That's an upgrade, probably.
Very powerful synergy here to give this Divine Shield and then copy it.
Oh yeah, that's nuts.
Kind of preventing a little bit of the damage dealt by this Breath of the Infinite.
And who knows, maybe it is just that little bit too much aggression, and Kin won't be able to bridge over to Plague of Death. But that definitely helps.
If
now
this
he
Marsh
can go...
Spawn gets Hex, I'm just saying.
True. Or Earth Shock?
Yeah, Earth Shock as well. He's just 1 mana short of being able to get a Bloodlust, though, and activate it this turn.
I mean, there's quite a few. Storm's Wrath would be pretty good too. Totemic Reflection.
So you could get a 4/4.
He get a 6-drop off of one of his Silence Flame Tongue totems, which is definitely worth
I'm
considering.
looking at the Reflection, but the problem is he doesn't have enough board space to get the spawn, because I was thinking get a 4 attack now, get the clean trade. So slightly awkward.
Okay, I guess this is probably better, yeah. I mean, you can descend the buffed attack face, right? That's fine.
True.
Like trading the 2/2, one of the Divine Shields, buff the other Divine Shield. Go face with it.
Seems good.
Or like
so
this.
he's
Yeah,
all
okay.
in on this turn.
Really is all in on the totems, and it's looking pretty powerful. I've got to say, this is a huge amount of damage that he has on the board. Breath of the Infinite barely scratches it.
The way of putting it, his best play convincing Infiltrator here. I refuse to believe that. He might
Bone
just
Wraith,
like.
Breath.
I'm
maybe?
thinking Breath and Psycho Pump. Hope you got the Cartoot.
I think he kind of wants to save Psycho Pump for next turn, because then he could go Psycho Pump plus Grave Runes.
Okay. So are there any chances for lethal here?
I mean, that does give a chance. You can hit Bloodlust now, right?
Yep.
But not off that.
So assuming that one of the minions that has already attacked or can't attack dies off of the Infiltrator, has up to a maximum of 14 damage in hand and on board. Sorry, in the weapon and on board. So what are the best dragons to get here? Honestly, just like big ol' whelp,
Big ol'
something
whelp,
that
yeah,
just
that's what I'm thinking.
awesome stuff.
Big ol' Whelp, or maybe like Onyxia, Ysera. Something to play on curve next turn.
The
Ooh.
Deathwing is interesting.
Yeah, Deathwing was
But
very tempting there.
yeah, but this can be played on board right now, and it's a death battle.
Yeah.
So seems good because killing the infiltrator will definitely free up board space.
Yep.
Oh, that is okay. Sorry,
It's a little unfortunate.
I saw the green border disappear on the
Yeah,
leftmost one. The attack was just already sent through. Ken's got to find a way to survive this last turn, and it's gonna be
Yeah, I don't think he really. I suppose you could go for Psychopomp to try and hit the Kartut if you were feeling very lucky, but this gives you a much more baseline way of surviving, I think.
what were the bad outcomes off of this?
Vargoth. If you mean off the Psychopomp.
Yeah, off of the Psycho. It seems like the vast majority were pretty good. Like there's Infiltrator and there was Kartut plus
Kartut, well, it's
Reborn.
2 out of 3, right? And I think this
Alright,
almost
fine.
certainly leaves him alive, right? Because it soaks 6 attacks.
Okay, and then Staz can try and roll the spell totem. I guess it doesn't make a difference with how the damage breakpoints work.
Yeah.
Here. He trades away the Sludge Slurper.
It does a little bit, actually. Oh no, yeah, not really.
There's little time.
So are there
Alright.
any 3 drops that could help in this situation? Just
Raid
something
Leader?
that generates more value. Raid
Yeah.
Leader is something.
Or like Wolf Rider or something? Or is he just holding on to it to try and go face? Surely you play it out, right? Guess not. He's afraid of the Plague of Death.
Okay. And for Kin's perspective, that kicks his whole turn.
It does. Which means that Staz has a few top decks for lethal. Splitting Axe, second Serpent Shrine. This could go either way still.
Manatide's not terrible. As long as the priest doesn't get the healing. That's just about the best 3 drop. In terms of stats. Oh, what a draw. Okay.
Mass
So
Resurrection.
now you do
have a
want to
chance of
res
getting...
the Vargoth.
Yeah, exactly. If you get Vargoth, it's insane.
Even just the one Kartut could be enough to pull him back. I mean, for Staz now, because there's
It's-
almost certainly going to be a taunt off
It's
of
just
this,
got to
so-
be mass res. Like, you're guaranteed to talk, pretty much.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So Staz needs the other Serpent Shrine. Or Lightning Bolt, Lava Storm.
That's nothing!
Not it. Lava Burst, I mean. I'm just inventing cards now.
Oh my god.
Kind of Earthquake deals with
It's so
the
close!
board.
Earthquake can be used to clear the board, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your best shot, and then hope it gives you the out of Axe, but at the same time, then they can heal, so Axe probably isn't even lethal.
This is a tough one.
Maybe you take Earthquake and don't play it? Is that the play?
Yeah. Well, he can't. He's at 6
Oh,
mana.
sorry, he's at 6
Yeah.
mana anyway, because he's overloaded. Yeah, of course.
And I do think Earthquake is the pick, but I'm trying an out beyond just Earthquaking. He will at least get an extra draw off the Manatite
2
Totem.
draws. Yeah.
So it's gonna be some combination of Spell Lackey and the other Serpent Shrine, I think.
Yep.
So he needs Sludge Slurper into like Lava Burst.
That's
There's
the
a Serpent Shrine. Oh, but Holy
But that's
Nova
heal.
can up to 6 if he hero powers as well.
So what's the play this turn? Breath of the Infinite plus Holy Nova.
Right, but he's got to take some trades before that happens.
Sure.
Must consider.
I think you really want to clear off the Manatide more than anything, because the
Yes.
attacking minions are stalled by the taunts. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the Holy Nova first of course, puts the Bone Wraith out of the range of Breath of the Infinite. Full
And then-
board cleared.
You also
And
really
go
want to
up
heal
to
your
6.
face, right? So that you don't have
Yes.
hero power spell damage into Serpent Shrine. Okay, I think I agree with everything Kin just did.
So it's got to be some type of Lackey out, but I believe that's a Sandstorm off the top, and not
not
good
bad.
enough. If you're
I
stuck
guess-
here, it's just past, right? It's got to be just past. This is
Pass
not good
into
enough to Earthquake.
Yeah. It's just slipping away. It's just slowly but surely slipping away.
As it so often does versus Priest.
Yeah.
You got that sinking feeling, but that's another 5
Ooh.
armor.
Do you just heal and
However,
then play that?
Yeah. I mean, once you get up to 13, surely you're not concerned with
You're
spending the
safe,
2 mana.
yeah.
At that point, you're just trying to race them. But Kin disagrees.
Oh, whatever. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Although technically at 8, there is still an out for Staz, getting Spell Lackey into Lava Burst into Serpent Shrine.
Sure. There comes the Earthquake. Kin has kept behind a pretty impressive hand, to be fair. Psycho Pump into Grave Rune. Probably gets back a Taunt. Probably just keeps him 100% alive.
Oh my goodness, that is not the one that deals face damage.
Yeah, that's not it.
Unfortunately for Staz, it
That's
seems
not
like
what
the
you want.
Shaman is about to fall just a little bit short, but no taunts available. Is there a Surge left?
That was a Sludge Slurper.
Okay. You start with
If
the
he could get...
Draconic or the...
I was going to say you start with the Sludge
Malagos?
Slurper.
Wait.
Does he just
Okay.
have to play it and hope it sticks?
I was more thinking, what if you get like a cheat spell, one of the Frost Shock or Lightning Bolt? But then
Sure.
he would be overloaded next turn, so that's not viable.
Yeah.
Man, this is tough. There's also Twin Tyrant, which allows you to, well, clear the board, the majority of it, and play Sludge Slurper alongside.
Mm-hmm.
This is a tough one. I couldn't tell you. So let's look at Kin's removal options for both of these, which are 4 attack, high health. It's Galakron. He is not playing Forbidden Words in the list. It's the other Plague of Death as well.
He's going for the melee! And he's just praying against all the odds that it is somehow able to stick onto the board so he can Serpent Shrine face.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, Kin has the Galakron to go up all the way to 17 with this hero power, and well out of range for Staz.
It was a good keep on the Galakron, worked out very, very nicely for Kin.
So what now? I'm still looking for a Spell Lackey into something like the one that summons 3, 5,
Okay.
6s.
Yeah, Eye of the Storm maybe can get there.
Yeah. No, it gets Plague of Death,
Maybe.
but
Yeah.
I don't know, Derek. I'm at my wit's end.
Wind Fury into something, that's kind of always something to consider, not really. Yeah, I guess Staz is back to just fighting for board now. 17
Another
health is too
Mukla.
much.
Oh. He's got a bunch of 1/1s garbage in the deck. I'm just kind of impressed how long the Shaman has managed to hold on.
Same, honestly, yeah. It's been, I guess the Earthquake was the only thing that really gave him a chance.
Okay, so if you're Kin, this is your last Plague of Death. Do you want to Is it an overreaction? Probably.
I mean, Soul Mirror basically does a good enough
Right.
thing. I mean,
And
you
you
get
get
a Mana Tide to draw, yeah. Which is not bad at all. Such a weird card, Soul Mirror. It always takes a second for me to wrap my head around it.
Those are the albatrosses. There's Eye of the Storm. Okay, that's getting Plague of Death when it comes down, but Staz
Yeah,
must
you
take
have
it.
to pick it. I was going to say, like, do you ever pick Earthquake because they're going to dominate the board? But I mean, even though you know they have a handful of stuff, you have to hope they don't have a handful of stuff.
Correct. Just cover it, pretend it's not there.
Yes. The old moldy plates in your bedroom trick.
Speak for yourself, Dara.
I wonder.
I'm unsure what Staz can do past this Eye of the Storm running into a Plague of Death.
Another Albatross. Definitely not what you want. And now you're probably not clearing. You're just going to go for board development, I think. Here is Kin. Skeletal plus Bad Luck Albatross seems fine. It's a taunt.
Yeah. This is a slow, painful process, but aside from our little excitement there from the Malagos possibly sticking,
Yeah.
I think that Kin has had this locked up for several turns now.
Unless Staz, there's like a 0% chance that Staz can fatigue. Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. I was wondering, like, if Kin keeps the Manatide Totem up for too long, then I don't know, maybe. But no, I take it back.
I wonder.
Well, it's gotta be Eye of the Storm.
Yeah.
Man, what else could there be?
What to do?
Maybe he
There's
wants to
no
milk the
more
hero
Swamp
powers
Queen
as much as
Hagatha
possible.
in Standard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There is the Hagatha minion, but it's not in the deck. In terms of threats left, it's pretty much just Lucina and the other Violet teacher. He's used both Marshglawn, I believe.
Yeah, there we go. Eye of the Storm comes down right at the last minute.
It is a rather spectacular card.
It is a very, very cool card. I like it a lot. One of those cards that
For the
seems
same
like it should
reasons
be
I
really
like-
bad,
yeah.
but somehow still is actually not that bad.
I mean, I like it for the same reasons I like the new Hunter spell. The Grand
Sure.
Slam.
Okay, obviously, Plague of Death is what you're looking at first of all, because this looks a little bit scary, so you could just get everything off the board. Like, Grave Rune, do they even have any way to generate lackeys? Like, because obviously Grave Rune on the Skeletal Dragon probably just locks out the game. But if they can somehow generate a Hex or an Earthshock, then maybe that's too scary.
I think we've seen all the lackey generation.
I think so too, yeah. But this probably gets the job done either way.
You win this.
And there you have it. A grueling Game 3 finally ends in Kin's favor, but Staz is not out just yet. Kin still has deck.
The remaining deck for Kin, sorry, was that?
Yes.
Kin's remaining deck after the Demon Hunter ban, I think, is his Warlock as his last remaining deck to be played.
All right.
Which, I mean, who knows? Maybe that will finally be the deck that Staz can beat with his Totem Shaman. Because I've got to be honest, he's been giving it all that, you know, telling you that it's one of his best performing decks. Even bringing it to this tournament full stop is a bit of a statement in its own right. And now that it's got here, it's just lost over and over again. Hasn't been able to do much of anything. Even in that game where it looked so close, he was 1 damage off lethal for those couple of turns where it made all the difference.
Yeah, it seems like the deck has potential, but maybe not quite the refined list that gets it there in Grandmasters just yet. There's so many spots where, like, maybe a Bloodlust could have helped a lot, or just some way to get draw. But that has been the problem for aggressive Shaman decks for quite a while now, just having consistent card draw.
Well, we'll have to see, as I believe we're heading into our next game. It is going to be the Mage for Staz. The Mage for Kin and the Druid for Staz. This is the last remaining deck I believe, for kin. Sorry, I believe it was the Warlock. But,
Right, sorry,
Oh
he
yeah,
got that
one
as his
against the
first
Mage,
win.
game 1. Yes, sorry, my mistakes. The Mage as the last remaining class, which up against the Druid, I think from what we could tell, it looked a little bit weak, to be honest. It wasn't able to get the early game pressure that it needed to, and also kind of lacked enough removals to clear off everything the Druid was doing.
Yeah, especially when the Druid is able to stick something like Soul of the Forest. That's the one that Warlock really struggles. Sorry, Mage as well. Well, that applies to pretty much all the classes. As here, he had a chance to keep a Glowfly Swarm in the opener, and I was under the impression that you do just keep those. Well, at least like one for sure, I thought.
Yes, well, I mean, that's kind of like stage 1 of learning the mulligan with this deck, right? It's that you keep Fungal Fortunes, you keep Overgrowth, Glowfly Swarm, and Kael'thas. Those are the 4 cards that you're looking for pretty much all the time. Given that you're going first, though, so you're going to have less cards, I can understand why you would get rid of it, because it does lead pretty nicely into Coin Reno, which you don't really want to be looking for. And so I think from Staz, I actually don't mind getting rid of it here, because you're not looking to just throw down a big board, because Mage has plenty of answers to that in either Blizzard, Zephyrus, or Reno, or Rolling Fireball, or Flamestrike. You know, there's a multitude of answers. What instead I think you're trying to do is draw through your deck and go for that one insurmountable Kael'thas turn that the Mage cannot answer.
That is a very good point you made, and Staz with the Overgrowth draw off the top, very good. But Kin also going for a Coin Mana Saver just into Water Elemental, stay on curve, very strong. But Staz now with the Senna, a bunch of 0-cost spells. Is this already going to be that insurmountable board? It is looking like it.
It's looking pretty good. Yeah. Even with the follow-up of Forest Aid, if it gets cleared, Power of the Wild if it doesn't. It's looking good.
However, Kin still has this Blizzard to deal with. Maybe not the second half just yet,
True.
but I believe this Mana Saver will be stealthed until it's time to rip something like Reno.
Yeah, I think even though the it can be dealt with fairly easily by Blizzard, I like still throwing it down, because you obviously have the twin spell aspect, the second half of Forest Aid, that can go down with Innovate Power of the Wild on the following turn. And while this is fairly all-in, I suppose you could say, if he was to go for that, because, you know, if he gets Kael'thas, it's not really doing much anymore. I think he needs to realize that in this instance, where he hasn't found the card draw, you need to go all-in and hope that they just don't have the answers.
I completely agree. And the answers are quite specific from this point. Having used a Blizzard, it's pretty much just Flamestrike, because even with the Mana Saver boost, it's not quite to roll into Amazing Reno just yet. It is enough to roll into Tortolan Pilgrim, which is essentially maybe another shot at Flamestrike. But right now, it is not in hand.
Yeah, we're really looking at Flamestrike or Pilgrim, or I guess Zephyrus itself would be a perfectly good draw here for Kin to clear things up as well.
There, Zephyrus into Brawl or something.
Yeah. He's wondering about holding back, but I mean, again, I just don't think you can. Like, if you hit the card draw off of Overflow, then you've hit the card draw anyway. You don't need these cards in your hand. You need to have used them to make sure you don't lose board.
I completely agree. Staz is taking all the time to make sure that this is the play, but he does land on eventually going all in. And Kin's next draw pretty much decides whether or not this pays off. Well, he maybe not all in. It seems like he's holding back on the Power of the Wild.
Yeah. Which I'm not sure if I like, actually, because if you look at how it shakes out now, because he didn't go for that, attack into one of the 2/2s with the Mana Saber and ping 1 health off anything means Reno was a full board clear then. Exactly 10 health left on the board. So it really just gave Kin another out to be able to clear the board. When I think his best shot was definitely
oh my God,
just getting the lethal on that turn.
That draw, though, I completely agree with you. I do think all in made sense, but maybe Staz was hoping to get something like Fungal Fortunes into a I don't know, just more stuff. But this is clearly not it. And the Flame Ward too seems like it's gonna be lights out for Staz.
Yeah, we'll have to see. He really, really wants to hit the card draw. He has a few cards he could hit to get it. Obviously, Fungal Fortunes would be fantastic. Overflow is the dream right now.
My mistake. It was Ice Barrier, not Flame Ward.
Oh, sorry,
It's
yeah.
Closer and closer to the Reno.
You are obviously just commentating from Staz's perspective, of course.
Of course. So for Kin. So Cartoon now nearly guarantee. I mean, it does guarantee he stays alive another turn, right? But the problem is, what's turn 9 going into Reno? I guess Kin will cross that bridge when he gets there. It is 2, I think, to just Arcane Intellect there. Facing down 13 damage on board. Overflow!
Oh, there we go. All right, that absolutely reignites this game. Staz, I mean, he still wasn't in a bad position. He could push 9 face on this turn, but having 2 cards as Innovate as his only cards was looking awful. This, however, is looking fantastic. Probably start with the trade so you can heal up your guy.
Hero power this down. Then overflow.
Sure, I guess if there's anything you want to spend your mana on, you can bait it out if you have to. But you probably don't need to spend your mana on anything anyway.
Not quite yet. We do have a game on our hands now, though, because Staz
Absolutely.
has gotten the refill. The Kin is very close to getting to Reno. There's Kael'thas.
All right, things were looking pretty much won for Kin, but all of a sudden, this is completely turned around. That's a pretty good
And even
draw
this
there.
current board, he doesn't quite have an answer.
So we could just go Power of Creation to look for a taunt, I guess, primarily. You know, he may not be dead from where he's sat. I mean, we can see at the moment he's not dead unless a big buff is found.
What to do?
Yeah, he's just thinking between the safe play of Bone Wraith to probably keep him alive into another turn, which is, I think, totally warranted because the next turn will be Reno.
Is it Rolling Fireball, or do you just go again with the Arcane Breath?
I quite like going again because it seems like he's going to play Bone Wraith this turn, but this does clear more damage off the board.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a risk going for a second, or maybe a bit greedy going for a second Arcane Breath. This definitely feels more than good enough.
Yeah, Bone Wraith does get punished by things like Bog Beam and Wrath there, whereas clearing the minion damage straight up guarantees it will not be in your face. So
This is going into turn 10. We got to be careful here, Staz. You know, you're using one of your probably your most powerful turn in the game here.
yeah, the alternative was just Glowfly.
Just Glowfly.
Or just Fungal and then go from there.
Right. Fungal, then Glowfly and hold back the Kael'thas, which I don't know. I think that might have been enough, because even if you hit Soul of the Forest, it doesn't matter. Reno's clearing it anyway.
Very true.
And while it is valid to say to yourself, okay, if he's got the Reno, I'm not winning the game anyway. I don't know if I agree with that assessment. I think even if Kin has Reno in his hand, Staz has a shot in this game, as long as he doesn't overcommit.
Granted, this is
And now he's just
not...
overdrawing, right?
Oh, okay. With the Glowfly,
no.
that is an overcommit. I was thinking maybe he plays Kael'thas and not too much other stuff. And so it doesn't quite warrant a Reno, or if it does warrant a Reno, he still has the Glowfly in the back end. But this now
This
just
turn was a
seems
mess. This was an absolute disaster. This just shouldn't have been a Kael'thas turn, right? It should have just been a Glowfly turn.
Yeah.
He overdraws now. He's used up Kael'thas. What's he going to do on the following turns?
Well, he's still got Glowfly and Soul of the Forest. That is the last push.
Sure. Okay,
And
he's still in
that
with the
is a
shot.
lot,
And
TBH.
to be fair, maybe Kin just didn't have the Reno, but I feel like he could have had his cake and eaten it there as Staz. He could have played the Glowfly,
Right.
kept back the Kael'thas. But either way, he does end up with Glowfly plus Soul of the Forest there. which is incredibly difficult to deal with after he's baited out the Reno. So maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know.
Something from Malfurion's bag of tricks. But with this full board, we can now see that game plan that Mage likes to go for, which is developing their own stuff and then freezing and then somehow racing the Druid. And with the Wind Fury minion.
Wind Fury is pretty big there.
Yeah,
that's
insane.
20 damage on the next turn.
I was thinking
maybe.
Yeah, I was thinking, does he even have to like pay any heed to this board?
Right, I was thinking freeze and then just don't attack anything.
Granted, he didn't have the lethal in hand, so maybe softening up him for a top deck flame strike a bit better. But this is a bit. I'm iffy on this.
And I guess Staz, given that he's running, rats and bog beams, could probably clear off at least one of the gyrocopters. So I think actually, even though we were tempted to just say he should go for the all face damage route, I think Staz probably would have been able to clear off too much.
So now Staz
upon
debating.
Closer inspection.
His first instinct was Gift of the Wild, which does still put everything in strike range though. So I wonder if he's more concerned maybe with trying to clear everything that Kin has. So dealing with the 4/1s is an easy task, just Wrath and a Moonfire. But the 4/4, which is a potential conch target, is the scary one. But just buffing everything to 4, I suppose, makes it more durable against Reno the minion and against a discovered blizzard of some sort. But yeah, Flame Strike could mess with this. Wait! Wait! There's the Power of the Wild. There's the Power of the Wild.
Okay.
I got it too. Oh my goodness.
That was the universe speaking to us there for a second. Everything to 3 health on the turn that Flame Ward is drawn.
For sure. I mean, these Reno spells today have been something else. For sure.
Really have.
Okay, so from Kin's perspective, Flame Ward is coming down. Although if he's kept perfect track of the decks and if nothing has changed from last year, the Grandmasters are allowed to have deck tracker on. He should know that there is a Power of the Wild remaining, and it will definitely have been drawn because Staz is going to 0 cards. That is a rush minion. Not bad at all. But still, he seems resigned to having to play if he has kept track of the other Power of the Wild.
Yeah, exactly. Flame Ward just will not win him the game.
And he's saying Bone Wraith doesn't either. Safeguard. There's 2 Wrath in hand.
Savage Roar.
Yeah, this
Wrath.
It's gotta be lethal.
It has to be lethal. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it seemed like on that turn there was just no out for Kin. And that means Staz is back in it with a 2-2 score. We're going to our first game 5 of the day, I believe. And Staz will be on that shaman.
This is an incredibly close series here. Staz, I think while it got a little bit rocky there in the middle, I think overall his game plan felt pretty strong. Early on when he was going, committing his cards, even though there was no, hint of card draw coming anytime soon, still just throwing everything onto the board because he knew that was his best shot. And then even though the Chaos turn was definitely a little bit messy and he could have got a bit more out of it, the overall game plan, I think, I didn't see at the time, but I think he was going for a bait out the Reno with this play and then set up a big Soul of the Forest turn. It quite clearly worked beautifully.
Yeah. I will say that going all in with what you have as Druid and hoping you get the draw is generally the way to play the deck because it does play a lot of these powerful draw effects, Fungal Fortunes, and Overflow. And Staz finally got the Overflow there. So, Game 5, I don't know how many games we've seen this Shaman lose today alone, but this is its final shot to get some redemption.
It is indeed. It's going to be up against the Mage, which Staz has been touting as a deck, I think, that he wants to face his Shaman into, which to an extent does make sense. They don't have necessarily the early game removal that maybe the Priest does, but I believe we saw this exact matchup up against Surrender in our first series of the day. And you know, Surrender did get the pretty much dream hand with Doomsayer, you know, and all the early drops as well. But it still just didn't really look like Staz had that much of a chance.
Yeah, and that was due to a very deliberate surrender, if you remember, of not only playing Doomsayer, but coining out a Ray of Frost on turn 2. So we'll have to see if Kin will go for a similar level of respect here. He does have Zephyrus.
Which I think you're probably throwing down. It's there's only a couple of Murlocs in the matchup, right? It's only the Sludge Slurper. If there were more Murlocs, I would definitely consider holding onto it for Hungry Crab. And maybe it's still worth holding onto for something like a Consecration or you know, whatever to clear off a big board. But I think just ramping is that little bit much more valuable.
Yeah, and I think that the factor that pushes him over the tipping point to make the decision is the fact that Rolling Fireball's already in hand. So after Wild Growth, he has some active pseudo AoE to deal with totems, etc. And so Staz here coins out the Serpent Shrine Portal, swings the board. This card reminds me a whole lot of Flanking Strike from Hunter back in the day. So it can happen a turn earlier. There's the overload aspect, which does make Staz's turn 3 quite awkward, but I don't see any merit to coining Mana Tide.
There is little time. I wonder.
There is the fact that he would maybe want to save the coin for Violet Teacher, but I was getting... Okay.
Wow.
I did not expect this. So this is saying that you need more than just a ping and a trade to get rid of the Mana Tide. And it clears up his turn 3 free of overload to be able to go with Serpent Shrine.
Yeah. I mean, it all but guarantees that his Mana Tide survives because obviously Kin has a plan on turn 3, which is Wild Growth. But the downside is he's just used up his 2 0-mana spells before Violet Teacher comes down. But I guess the amount of card draw he's getting, in his opinion, just overrides that anyway.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing this as a pretty positive handout. And the other Serpent Shrine is just cheap enough this turn to be played with the Overload, and he can get a value trade with a Mind Flayer, so that's pretty value. And not to mention, Kin's had to expend a certain amount of mana to even damage the totem this much.
Very true. So, second Serpent Shrine is looking pretty good on this turn. It obviously damages the overconfident Orc, and then you can trade in Kaj for the remaining 3 damage, which curves again into Vicina.
Seems
don't know if
good.
there's anything else that looks better.
It's just that he's gonna start worrying about Reno, but I suspect that in this type of matchup, you're worried about Reno every single word you make.
Yeah.
So at some point, he's gonna have to commit.
I think the only time you're ever really overwriting Reno is when you start going for totemic reflections and you know you make those huge high health boards. But until then, yeah, I don't see it.
There is little time.
So here we go. What's in the box this time?
Wow, these are pretty good.
I'm not sure what the name of that card is, but it's statted well. Is that the prime for Druid? Or
Mashiffin.
Oh god, who makes these names? Anyway, the Rolling Fireball. Here's out everything.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty relevant, the Mashiffin Prime that it shuffles in. It allows him, what is that, 10 mana 9/9 with Taunt that allows you to summon another 9/9 with either Rush or Taunt.
Yes,
which,
very high value.
I mean, who knows? Yeah, like that could be the bomb that that absolutely locks it out against the Mage later on.
Could be. I mean, a lot of the games with the Shaman, we've seen it have a decent start and just run out of steam towards the end, so that is steam. Okay, so Staz now can go for... I was looking at the Violet Teacher, but it seems a little bit weak just on its own. He could go for Evil Totem, Guardian of Merchant, and the Tempest.
I wonder.
Nothing seems particularly strong, but I feel a little bit partial to explore so that he could try to go for
Same.
a push with Vicina and Overload. On the
Yes,
following
I
turn.
agree. I think just spending your mana on Violet Teacher is not. It's not quite good enough. I'd rather go the other way around, where I play a bunch of small minions this turn and then go Violet Teacher or Vicina next turn, than go for Violet Teacher or Vicina this turn, then play the small minions. Because if you do it this way, they all get to attack face.
Yeah, seems good. Also a board that's just small enough that Kin doesn't feel good about using AoE into it. Again, Staz worried about Reno, but that's always going to be a threat.
Pretty nice draw there for Kin. It gives him the option, I suppose, of going for Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, or maybe even regular Alexstrasza, who knows, if he needs on the following turn. But obviously if the board's looking a little bit too scary, then we may just see the Tortollan instead. A whole lot of options, which is always what you want as the Highlander mage.
And so, Rush Lackey, not quite good in this situation. Yeah, it seems like the deck relies a lot on getting most of its value out of the lackeys.
Yeah.
From the spells, from the dragons.
I'm ready to learn.
In any case, though, it's a pretty good board.
It's a very nice board. I wonder if it's enough to prompt the, the Tortollan instead of Dragon Queen Alexstrasza here.
Well, there is no Bloodlust in the deck, but there is Vicina, which we see in hand.
Yeah.
Threatens a whole bunch of damage, so it is going to be the Tortollan. Blizzard is there.
Doesn't even allow you to kill off the Violet Teacher though. Oh no, wait, with an attack he could have done.
He instead
this is fine.
prioritizes killing the Totem, which I actually quite like. I think not only do you keep your Mana Saber alive, it's just Totem, and the deck is called Totem Shaman, so you're probably going to kill those. A lot of the cards in hand are minions, as you know, not spells.
Yes. There's not many cheap spells in the deck anyway, and you've already seen a Totemic Might.
Shall we take?
Not bad.
There is a world where he evolves that and rushes the evolution into something.
Or it could be Goblin Lackey to just rush it into the Mana Saber and then Sandstorm.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it does get you a a nice little board. Okay.
Yeah, these were not quite the premier lackeys that Staz was looking for, I think.
It does still leave him with a pretty wide board though, which I think is reasonable to ask for against a mage this late in the game.
Oof, this Malagos though. Could get the Arcane Missiles, could get Arcane Explosion, but instead, just, oh my god, what?
Oh wait, okay, the Sandstorm Battlecry doesn't go off, okay.
But,
I mean, it's still just pretty good.
I mean,
It's just a lot of stuff.
yeah, and the fact that two of the same dragon got killed, when does that happen?
Not often.
Well, oof is what I've got to say.
Oof indeed. Second Sandstorm does clear up some of this, but I think for Staz we can quite clearly see that unless he's able to deliver lethal like right now with Vicina, it's not going to get there. He can do 13, 16 damage, I believe, on this turn. Oh no, wait, he can't even play the Splitting Axe, so just 13 damage to face on this turn.
Very far from enough, and trading at all is basically a losing play as well, so he might try to go face, and then Kin will deliver the bad news that is in hand.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of seeing this one slipping away from Staz again. Even if he gets the, what is it called, Marsh Spawn later on in the game, he doesn't have any spells left. He didn't play a spell this turn, so that out is pretty much gone.
And there you have it. Kin is going to be advancing into the match for the second place in division to make it to, Group A to make it to Sunday. So he'll be facing against Surrender. Sadly, Staz has to bow out with at least, I think, 3 points out of this risk. Not bad, higher than half the field. And personally, I feel very sad for hyping up the shaman only for it to not win a single game all day.
Yeah, that was pretty pitiful. I think it was like 0-4. It went over the course of the 2 games we saw him play. And from Staz overall, it's, obviously to get into top 8 is not bad at all. But I feel like compared to some of the other players here in top 8, it was just a middling performance for him. He only finished 3-4 in the Swiss, got less than 50% win rate in terms of the games there, and then just drops 0-2 here today. To make it on stream is an accomplishment in its own right. But I think from him, I want to see something a little bit better from him, because given the previous 2 seasons in Grandmasters, he was one of the most consistent players we had. And for him to drop out that fast, it definitely shows that he maybe doesn't have an absolute solid grip on the meta quite yet.
To be fair, not that many people do. It is a very new meta.
Very true.
And that's part of what makes it so exciting, right? We're seeing all these different takes on lineups. We're seeing a bomb warrior where I didn't expect to see it. We're seeing a shaman of any sort, which I didn't expect to see. And that's kind of the beauty of holding the recent tournaments so close after an expansion is released.
And so, as I was saying, that does unfortunately mean that Staz is out of the group. So let's take a look at the bracket to see what the next match will be here today in Asia Pacific. I believe we're down to our final match of the day, with Staz unfortunately going out. Surrender versus Kin is going to be our decider match to decide who will join Chonsu in our top 4 on Sunday, and who will sadly be eliminated out of this week's play. Once again, these first 3 weeks basically function as an individual tournament each week. So if you're a Staz fan, fear not, he will still be back next week fighting out in another Swiss portion and hoping to get into that top 8 to get as many points as possible before we head into the round robin in week 4.
Very true. And if you guys are just fans of Hearthstone in general, just because this is the last match of the stream doesn't mean it's the last for the entire day, or the last only for APAC, because right after this we're rolling into Europe. So there's tons more of this over on another corner of the globe. And as for this last matchup, it will be, as you mentioned, Surrender versus Kin, and Surrender with a lineup that is, I believe, 3 out of 4 decks similar to Chonsu, which Kin really struggled against. I would expect that maybe Kin is feeling a little nervous for.
I think he might be, and we're going to have to see how he fares when we come for this final series from Asia Pacific of the day after this quick break. We'll be right back with more Hearthstone Grandmasters.